The killed is an idea in the mind reinforced by your own willingness to believe in the killer. The killer is judgment. Now this is not a small little sentence. It looks like a small little sentence, the killer is judgment, but you have to remember that the thought in my mind and Laurent's mind, we were actually joined in this. The thought in my mind and his mind was that he was the killer. Okay, if you were here last week, you know that Laurent said he believed at this point that he was hate. That's how consumed he was with these hate thoughts, and he believed he was hate. That's the essence of what he was. All right, so he and I both thought of him as the killer. And notice Holy Spirit is not saying that Laurent is the killer. Holy Spirit is saying judgment is the killer. Now this totally impersonalizes things, first of all. But secondly, this shows that the killer would not only be in him, in his mind, but also in me, in my mind. And of course probably in everyone here, in all of our minds. The killer, right, is judgment. It's not any particular person. We can't ever point the finger at any person and say, there is the killer. The killer is judgment, and we all share that. So again, the killed is an idea in the mind reinforced by your own willingness to believe in the killer. The killer is judgment. Belief in judgment is belief in a mirage. For judgment only sees what isn't and judges it as true and unworthy. Even when judgment judges as beautiful, it chooses the perception of unworthy. For beautiful and unworthy are two sides of the same idea of judgment. This is the idea of duality and choose between. The idea of choose between is an exciting experience created out of illusion, for in reality there is nothing to choose between. There is only the flow. Now again, this first paragraph is very important if you look at my state of mind at the time. My state of mind at the time. Laurent thought I was ugly, and I agreed. Laurent thought I was unworthy, and I agreed. Laurent thought I was somehow low, and I agreed. Now, what's really important to hear in this, not only I agreed, but there's something before that that needs to be heard that wasn't said. If I agreed, then could the judgment have been in his mind alone? And the answer is no. In order for me to agree, the judgment had to be in my mind. So we saw him as the killer, but in truth that same killer lived in my mind and was guiding me to play out the role of killed. And what's really important, of course, since there was this thought that we had that I was ugly, I also had a wish that I could be beautiful. And in fact, there was a typical kind of a woman, a specific body look and all of that Laurent thought was beautiful. And, when we would see it in movies or whatever, he would point it out to me, and I would wish that I looked like that, because then I could be worthy, right? Then I could be loved. And so this is why it's important that Spirit points out that if you choose beautiful, you're still choosing the perception of unworthy. In other words, if I could take a magic wand and remake myself into Well, what stands out for me is the lady in the red dress in the Matrix. It's one of the women that he liked. If I could make myself the lady in the red dress in the Matrix, I would not really be letting go of unworthy. Because if you choose one side of a judgment, the other side of the judgment goes with it. It's like you're choosing the entire coin, right? It has two sides. And of course, if you've ever talked to anyone who the world agrees is beautiful, right? If you ever talk to anyone who the world agrees is beautiful, and really get to know them, you will find that they have great fears often about losing their beauty, or they even have trouble understanding why the world thinks they're beautiful, right? The unworthiness is there too. It's there too. So what Spirit is saying is the entire idea of beauty and ugly, worthy and unworthy, these entire ideas need to be let go. And what Spirit is calling them is the idea of choose between, right? The options. He calls them an exciting experience created out of illusion. Of course, what they would be exciting to is the ego. But what he really wants to point out to us is that we do have a desire, a draw, an attraction to having options and choosing between. We like judgment. All right? And he wants to see this because he wants us to see this because we don't want to be in denial about anything. So we want to recognize our attraction to choose between, and we also want to look honestly at the effects of this attraction so that we can change our mind, so that we can release our attraction, so that through our freedom we can become unattracted to choose again and much more interested in what he calls the flow, which doesn't really offer choices. And when I say it doesn't really offer choices, some of you may have felt something within that even a thought of that doesn't sound fun, to have no choices. That doesn't sound fun. It doesn't sound interesting. And if you had that thought or that feeling at all, then you understand what Spirit is saying when he says the idea of choose between is an exciting experience created out of illusion. You can see that we are indeed attracted to that idea. All right, so let me read the first paragraph again, and then I will move right into the second paragraph of the message.